took a breather. I've calmed down. Welcome back to the desk. Tom Ballinger joined here with Justin McClanahan, J-Mac, and Ryan Agro Bailey. We're halfway through the day today. We're going to move on. Insignem taking on NoPing here. Should be an interesting one. The bracket. Here it is in all its glory. CLG will face Trifecta as Trifecta beat up SK Gaming. And yeah, that one was a little bit rough. I will say this. My angry rant came from a place of love for those guys. I just expected a little bit more. Maybe I was foolish for that, but I did. Insignem versus NoPing coming up on the docket here. This is the minor league squad versus the international team. But even though they're minor league, Insignem have impressed a lot of different people.
I think that's the big namesake here, is Insignem has really stepped up to impress us. Taking down Trifecta very early on into the tournament is probably the big namesake for it. This might be a minor league team, but they have not shown that they are minor league material. They've shown that they are at that SPL level.
Insignem definitely, they might actually just be the best team in the losers bracket right now. I think it's between them and CLG for who the top end out of this losers bracket is. We'll see if Insignem's able to take care of business today. I expect if this team is as good as we think they are, they should win this 2-0 pretty quickly.
Well, we've got some questions. Hopefully, Taco's got some answers. She's standing by with some of the players. Let's see what they've got to say.
Here at NoPing SPETHRO, and pretty interesting stuff so far from you guys coming into this LAN. And I wanted to ask you guys, what's it like being here at LAN for the first time?
Oh, it's fantastic. Like, we are friends and we are hanging out and practicing. Like, yesterday we played NA ranked, so it was a lot of fun because we always have to play in BR server, so it's a good time. We are having a good time.
And how do you feel like everything is going as far as kind of learning the LAN metas, essentially?
Yeah, we are having lots of trouble with that. Like, we are not used to NA meta or Europeans meta. We have our own meta. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. Like, last time it didn't work, like you all see.
Well, it's pretty awesome. I mean, getting to see you guys and getting to see the kind of flavor that you guys have been bringing to the LAN environment yourself. And if there's one thing that you want to see your team do this LAN, what would it be?
Maybe take one game of them, or maybe win the set. I guess that's what we want.
Well, winning's always the game plan there, but really do appreciate your time and best of luck in your set against Insignem.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot there, Taco. Great hearing from the coach, and I like his attitude here. Like we said, if you're a newer Smite fan, this Brazil spot dominated by Black Dragons for so long, and NoPing able to usurp them here and find their way to Atlanta.
And they've looked okay so far. I mean, this isn't a team that we expect to be able to compete with the top end quite yet. This is their first opportunity to come over here and get that high-level competition, but just hearing their coach and the way that he's thinking about the game and understanding that they've got their own meta and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't, I think it's a good mentality to have.
I think that's the important thing, is while they may have overtaken Black Dragons in their own respective region, here on the LAN they are still a little bit newer. And it showed in their first set here, but I think now that they've got those first few games out of the way, it'll be a little bit better idea here for these guys.
Yeah, I talked a lot in my videos leading up to this placement round. I talked a lot about relative strength and absolute strength. I think the relative strength of this team, sure, they were strong enough in their own region to beat out Black Dragons, but the absolute strength might actually belong to BD because it's all about knowing the enemy team and everything. And so NoPing has had to really take a crash course here, and frankly, they haven't looked as poor as I really expected them to. And I think that's the bigger picture situation here. Insignem is going to be a tough task, but I think this is in the realm of possibilities for NoPing to take home.
As we saw the other day, I mean, Gonn and Chip, these guys have been here before. They've had this international experience, so it's not like the entire team is new to this level of competition. That certainly helps them. I think that they're talented players, but it's just understanding how to play at this level takes some time.
We just had a conversation with SPETHRO. Now Taco standing by with Insignem. What have they got to say?
Here with Insignem's mid laner, Deathpanter, and I think it's been a very fun time watching you guys be your underdog run through the brackets, and now that you're in the lower bracket, I think a lot of people are looking towards you guys as a team that has a very real shot of making it for DreamHack. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, beating Trifecta was like a really good start for us. Of course, dropping to Mouse now is a bit rough, but we still have a really good chance, and we'll just see how far we can go.
And what are your thoughts on some of the other teams that you're going to have to be going up against? Because there's the likes of CLG, Trifecta that you're still having to worry about. Are any concerns about maybe a rematch or even facing them?
Nah, I mean, we take every team serious, and we go well prepared into every game, but also confident. So we'll just do whatever we can.
And how does it make you feel, by the way, the whole height thing going on here? Should we get things back to normal here?
It's a bit of a different look, maybe.
No, but in all seriousness, you guys have really been killing it. I think that some of the stuff that you've brought from SML perspective has been really cool to see. And matching up SML to SPL, do you think that there is a gap anymore?
I mean, somewhat, yeah, but as you can see, like, we played against Trifecta, we played very well. And against Mouse, even though we were like 7-8k behind, we still had like really good team fights mid-late game. It was just rough that we fell so far behind. So I think we match up very well. Of course, we're always going to be underdogs, but I think we actually have a chance.
Well, definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys have to bring here up against NoPing. And other than that, good luck in the set and good luck to your team.
Thanks a lot. Always having fun there. Taco and Deathpanter. A little bit different in the height situation, I would guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Just a little bit.
I don't see height.
Game coming up here in Insignem versus NoPing. Deathpanter, one of my favorite players in the minor league, a very vocal individual, and I've really enjoyed kind of the back and forth. I've lovingly called him the SML mascot, and how fitting it is that Insignem actually make it here. Deathpanter playing in the mid lane, and the jungler for LASBRA, or the jungler LASBRA for this squad, has really taken the spotlight.
LASBRA has been just lights out so far this LAN. At least he was up against Trifecta. Against Mouse, all of Insignem kind of had their worries. I think that if Deathpanter and LASBRA can continue to be the frontline superstars for this team, they're going to continue to do well. Genetics is kind of that next line in my mind, where the side lanes at other times, Joshy and Zearoe in particular, sometimes need to provide a little bit more.
It just felt like when they were going up against the EU squad, they got that big name jitter, like these are the big guys in our division, where when they were facing off against the North American Trifecta, they just played the game how they want to. And I think that's the transition they need to make in this one, is just play your game because you know how good you are, and that's really what matters.
You like his hat there, Tom, on the left?
It's inside out. I can't see what it says.
It says New York City.
Does it?
Yeah. It absolutely does.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I know you can't really see it because you don't have glasses to wear, but that says New York City, yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. I'm a fan. Let's get to pick some bands. NoPing on the left side. We'll have the first selection. Of course, representing Brazil. Insignem, the European minor league representatives. We'll see how this one kind of winds up. Ban phase. We heard NoPing say that they kind of have their own meta. What are you expecting different here, J-Mac?
Honestly, I'm not expecting a whole lot of the too much difference here. While they do want to play their own game, I expect we'll see a lot of the relatively same strong picks. We might see a little bit of a mix-up in the jungle there, but other than that, I'm not really expecting a whole lot of outside. Just a lot more focused bans, I think, is what we really need to see out of NoPing.
Pele ban early is something that we haven't seen as much of as I thought we would coming up until this point. Pele has kind of been one of the gods that's been left to the wayside a lot of times. These picks and bans, left open, kind of baited, but not ended up being selected too much. Mercury and Erlong have really stolen the show in the jungle.
Freya ban here coming out from Insignem, very strong and a very standard ban so far. Time clock on NoPing side of the world. I expect to see maybe an Odin, maybe some of the other power picks that we've seen. Chernobog used to be, during the regular season, one of the go-to bans, not really played here at LAN, outside of Snoopy.
Remember, he did get that balance adjustment not long before the placement stages, so I think that is a big contributor to it. But like I said earlier on, duo lanes are just getting ganked more often than they had been during the regular season. Usually whenever it comes time for LAN, all the gloves come off. It's time to do whatever it takes in order to win. And in this opportunity, a lot of times it is ganking the duo lane early on. And Chernobog isn't quite as safe as someone like, say, Jing Wei, who we've seen quite a bit of.
And the big thing to note here is that NoPing took Erlong off the table in response to Insignem do ban Mercury, so this leaves Odin, RTO, Terra, Athena, so many big picks open for NoPing, but they got to remember that they're giving two of them over away to Insignem at the same time.
So right now, NoPing trying to figure out where they want to go, and they've isolated the Terra. The selection has been highly coveted in that secondary position, so interesting to see it taken first overall. Insignem now. They've got their shot here on the right-hand side. Terra, alongside another one, has been the standard go-to So now with Terra picked up first, where do you see Insignem heading?
I think I go Odin RDO in this position. You put RDO in the lane that Terra is, that I assume would be solo, and then you give that Odin over to support, and then you force the enemy support to either get their Horrific Emblem, or get their Sprint, or get their Phantom, and really kind of force their hand. Instead, it'll be neither of those two. Fenrir Jingwei isn't too bad of its own right. I do think it's a little bit suspect to leave open something like the RDO against Fenrir and Jingwei, a god that does pretty well against both of those selections, but it doesn't seem like NoPing was looking to punish them with that particular selection.
Well, here's an interesting sort of turn of events. Fafnir and Soul selected here. NoPing kind of showing their hand that they might look for that they're going to look for a hunter. This is pretty standard, I'd say a couple of months ago. Summer Split really comes to mind, where we were seeing the 2 hunters, a Soul, sometimes 3 basic attackers mixed up with the Fafnir. Very different from what we've seen here at LAN and even in the fall split. Is this an outdated strategy, or is it just reaching back?
I don't think it's necessarily outdated. I think this is just them. This is what if this is what NoPing is comfortable with, then they're just going with what they know. They don't necessarily have to worry entirely about the current LAN meta that we're seeing, but they do have to keep it in mind as RTO is locked in here, strong against both Terra and Fafnir. If she can drop that crippling field right as he comes out of Draconic Transformation, that's the big risk reward of the Fafnir, is when you transform with that ultimate, you are suspect to a lot of damage.
I like the RDO selection a lot. The Odin doesn't seem particularly good up against Fafnir Soul, so go with the other direction. It's a pick that shuts down a little bit of what Fafnir and Terra wants to do, and again, it's good against what Insignem has already, and it's flexible. You still are wide open with this draft if you're Insignem. This could be Fenrir support, jungle, or solo. This could be RDO solo or support. Please don't put it in jungle. I am past that.
Yeah, no, I think the only team that was really doing the RDO jungle was the Mouse team. I don't think that it was a strong look.
No, I agree.
They
Also saw it a little
changed
bit on the console side, and it didn't jump off the screen at me.
That's fair right there. But one of the nice things about Season 5 is how much wiggle room there is. It's so flexible, and I think that it makes this pick ban phase so important. Coach Casio there on the side of Insignem. I think that the importance of coaches has become much more prevalent because of how difficult it is to navigate P's and B's. Insignem here in phase number 2, banning out the carry. No Rom and no Ratatasker for NoPing. NoPing on the other side, take the Transformation God, no the Morrigan, and the last ban here, as the clock ticks down, NoPing trying to figure it out.
I really like the Rom ban because he works so well with Fafnir. All of Rom's kit is just centered around auto attack damage. As many shots as you can fire out there, do it with the Rom. So taking him away when the Fafnir is on the table is a very smart move here by Insignem.
You can't ban out every hunter, so trying to take away a bunch of hunters usually isn't a good idea against this Fafnir Soul already locked in. But I agree with you, J-Mac. I think Rom is kind of the premier guy that goes alongside those two. Maybe Hachiman would have been next off the table for me because he also provides an attack speed steroid to Soul, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where NoPing ends up going.
Well, right now, Insignem are the ones on the clock, trying to figure out their 4th selection. Genetics, heavily involved in the conversation. I'm going to be tipping us off here that RDO and Fenrir won't wind up in that support position. He's played a lot of Ymir. He's looked very successful on the Ymir. He's looked, I would say, the opposite of unexceptional when he brings out the Iceman. Certainly a big part of what Insignem has been able to do so far has been really in the hands of that character. But what else can he bring? That's one of the questions. It won't be the Hun Bats, and I think that solidifies that Fenrir might be that support pick. Again, Fenrir and RDO still a little bit wiggle room there, but Hun Bat's definitely the jungler of choice.
Very aggressive draft here from Insignem. This is not a draft that does particularly well if you start running at them consistently. They have to be the engagements. They have to be the ones dictating these engagements up against NoPing. NoPing's got great objective control, but that's why I love this Hun Bat selection. Well, a lot of what these double auto attack comps want to do is go to towers, go to Gold Furies, go to Pyromancers, and just kill them really quickly before you can get in there and disrupt them. But Hun Bat's disruption is so good that makes it pretty difficult.
And not only that, the on her pick here is going to work so well for them. We haven't seen very much on her, mostly because when we even get an opportunity, he's been banned away more often than not. And then the dodgy to round out the draft. This is kind of pulling 2 different compositions at once. This is the double hunter, but also the let's kill somebody as soon as we pull them in more than anything. Desert Fury and Supernova, both great abilities to almost insta-kill someone who gets pulled in by that powwow.
Last pick here for Insignem. Looks like it's going to be the mid lane mage. Where's your heart at, Aggro?
I think when
What
I think
are
of
you asking
Deathpanter,
for?
probably Discordia would be something that's on my list here. Cripple is really good against Terra, Fafnir on her, Dodgy. I think Discordia is the first one that would be coming out of me. It's just so good up against Fafnir with that Draconic Corruption. As soon as you see him about to complete the transformation, you toss the apple on him and he can't go anywhere.
Right now, Discordia could be the selection. Call him, Miss Cleo. Aggro calling it as he hears it, sees it, and writing it on down as Insignem. Discordia will find her way in the mid lane with Hun Bats lying in wait in the wings. Lovely composition here from Insignem. Across the way, NoPing with a classic basic attack strategy as well. Even Dodgy can benefit from what Fafnir is going to do with the Coerce. Her Hot Hands passive is just allows her to really stack that nonsense up. And NoPing, I love the composition. And again, I asked J-Mac this before. I don't think it's outdated, but is this an issue? Because clearly everybody knows what's going on here. There's no tricks.
No, I don't think it's an issue. I mean, everyone knows what Insignem's going to do. They're going to burn your beads and they're going to kill you because you don't have beads.
That's right.
You're not tricking many people these days in Smite game. I liked it that NoPing sticks with their own Brazilian meta, right? They said that they like to do their own thing, very different than NA or Europe. Don't try and play the Europeans' game because they're just better at it than you. Play your game and see if you can win that way.
And I really do like the Discordia draft, not just because of the cripple that comes with the ultimate, but also because she's another one of those heavy disruption-based gods. You can't stand too close to each other because Strife would just absolutely destroy you. If the golden apple does end up hitting you, it's going to force your team to separate, as Hunbots is already doing. So this is just going to further widen the gap between you and your allies.
An interesting one, no doubt about it. NoPing, the new Brazilians coming through. I'm excited to see that. Again, SPETHRO was talking about his own meta. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen when they bring the basic attackers kind of back here. And Insignem, on the other hand, they've got their own situation. I was asking about the Brazilians before. Now I'm going to toss the coin to the other side. Insignem, again, like you said, we know what they're doing. How are they going to be able to find the victory here? What's the win con for them?
Shutting down this Fafnir more than anything else. Fafnir is always kind of the crutch when it comes to this composition style of this double hunter and really burst opposition here. If they can keep this Fafnir out, a lot of what they want to do is going to be shut down, and it's going to force them to be on the back foot of the Dodgy.
I just think that anytime Insignem's loading into the game, their primary win condition is LASBRA. And it doesn't really matter what he's playing. It doesn't really matter what the other team's playing. LASBRA is plan A just about every game for Insignem. Deathpanter can be plan B. Genetics making plays in the dual lane can be plan C. It doesn't really matter what follows that because most of the time plan A just works for Insignem.
That was the answer I was looking for, because Hun Bats is not really that traditional LASBRA hard carry. We see the Mercuries, we see the Circuits. He's got a strong Hun Bats, but sure, fails wound up with 12 plus kills, right? But that's usually far and few between. You're usually setting up the other characters. So for a team that undoubtedly relies on their jungler almost every single game, can he play setup man for Deathpanter? Well, they've won a lot of games during the regular season. We'll see if they can do it against Brazil. Finch and Tully are on the call for this one. NoPing, Insignem, game one.
Great job on the desk yet again, and a big set here between NoPing and Insignem. Insignem, the SML representatives, NoPing, the SGS representatives, kind of carrying the badge a little bit for the representative or for their respective formats.
Doing a good job at the beginning of this tournament, but now they're in the lower half bracket. Elimination game for both of these teams. Needing to make an impact is these two junglers specifically. I'm looking at Gonn and LASBRA.
Yeah, Gonn on the Dodgy, a pick we don't see a ton of, but one that definitely can be strong when paired with other gods that are reliant on CC and beads being banned away. Is Genetics having a good time on the Fender support.
I'm a fan of this dance. Can we talk about that dance?
It's a really good dance. I was talking earlier about what the most BM sort of like emotes in game are, and I think that RDO is really high up because she sits down in waves in bear form. So
yeah,
you know,
that's a good one.
Definitely a good
I think I remember what was it? Either Aurora or Neroma getting a 1v2 kill as an RDO and then did that exact emote after the fact.
Well, certainly going to be wanting to see if we can see some big highlight plays like that. NoPing up against Insignem, and one place to watch out for if you're not watching the jungle could certainly be this duo lane matchup with a Fenrir here in the support role. They could get aggressive early, but Genetics already taken a little bit of poke, trying to push back SPETHRO, but the Horrific Emblem coming out early. They want this fight.
Oh, they definitely do. And the counter Horrific Emblem to prevent the chase from occurring. And unfortunate that Genetics misses the Unchained. It wasn't going to apply the stun. He didn't build all the stacks of the runes for that one, but it's all about the damage to reset the cooldown, going from about 15 seconds down to 7.5.
Trying to set up that stun of YouFell, followed up by Joshy. And remember, you can see it swirling around Genetics. I think a lot of this is about that Discordian passive, too. He wants to make sure he has it as Joshy has the beats forced out early, and Genetics goes in aggressive on YouFell one more time.
Uh-oh, SPETHRO. Keep in mind he has a hammer. He doesn't have his underhand tactics to get away from all the action, but if Insignem aren't careful, they might fall to all these archers. That's about a wave and a half worth of archers right there.
Insignem have been playing this early game very aggressive, but YouFell and SPETHRO have done a great job responding. And I think this is an interesting matchup when you consider their probable skill levels between like the top end over there in Brazil winning their region and then like the team right on the cusp of the SPL in Europe. So this is one on paper that I expect to be very, very close.
Yeah, Season 5, we're not seeing Black Dragons finally at one of these international lands. So NoPing Esports trying to surpass their precedents, you know, trying to make a real staple representative team for the Brazilian region. And so far, they have a tall hill to climb because after they go through NoPing, it's only going to get harder.
It absolutely is. It's purple stripped away by Insignem. They want to use it aggressively on YouFell. They did a great job hammer into the Impale. But Genetics and Joshy, they want this on her since LASBRA has made the rotation. The disarm was not enough. Joshy, get your respawn first blood, and SPETHRO might be in trouble as well.
Not a bad player to get that first blood either. Joshy is trying to rush those Devil Gloves, keep in mind, and same can be said for YouFell. The race for the hunters of the stacking item usually tells who's going to be the lane bully afterwards.
A nice gank over from LASBRA, and that couldn't have, it would be hard to read that if you're NoPing, because Insignem have been playing just aggressive, all in, all game long. So just because they're jumping in doesn't mean that suddenly the jungler's here, but SPETHRO in trouble. Horrific Emblem has him so slowed, but the jump in from YouFell was great. Genetics barely survives, but that's more than enough to get SPETHRO out.
Ooh, if that persistent gust hit, that might have been the fall from SPETHRO. But Joshy needed to disengage from that because of all the archers that started to accumulate there. Insignem getting the first blood and wanting more.
Yeah, and we can actually go back and take a look at that first blood too. LASBRA is really the one that ends up making that one happen with his rotation, but it's because Genetics and Joshy have been playing so aggressive all game long that you don't expect it to be coming in here.
That's right. Genetics taking a lot of damage also, but LASBRA with a great cleanup crew. I believe that YouFell already dropped his beads earlier from one of the stuns, so he didn't really have it available that time around.
And remember, Insignem also stripped away the purple buff earlier totally, so NoPing, after getting the lane clear advantage, really wanted to respond by stripping away Insignem's purple buff as well. That's why they were pushed up so far, and LASBRA, recognizing that, was able to punish.
And this should be the level 5 race for Joshy, winning it rather, being able to get the airstrike before the Desert Fury, and knowing how aggressive Genetics has recently been this tournament on the Fenrir. It's not one of his staple go-to picks, but this tournament he's been aggressive with it, and I think Joshy can easily follow up from that aggression with this little bit of a lead.
Oh, don't bite here, SPETHRO. This is a bait all day long. They get the stun, fear no evil right there as well. Overhand smash, not enough, and SPETHRO actually makes it out, though the purple buff is grabbed by Insignem.
That's really unfortunate. Oh, Genetics, you're a madman. Tier 2 tower taking 2 shots, well calculated, no one to respond. And I was going to say how the ultimate from LASBRA was actually slightly disrupted by the persistent gust coming through, putting SPETHRO slightly further away from all that CC.
So they couldn't keep it locked down as long as they would have liked, but it all is forgiven when Genetics recognizes that SPETHRO is backed a little bit too closely, and he is able to jump in even with the tower there and clean up that kill. Insignem now off to a 2-0 start, and Cinder entirely around LASBRA and the duo lane aggression.
Terra versus Artio matchup between Margot and Zearoe. This is basically cookie cutter idea where you can tell that the Terra wants to dash, so you'll just drop the cripple field right under your feet. So it's a little bit of a mind waiting game between these two players, but at the end of the day, Zearoe should be able to be the lane bully in between the lanes because Margot is going to be using that monolith to clear the wave, not to heal herself.
And Both of them have the pin booth. We've even been seeing Soul Reaver on some of these builds nowadays, totally. It looked like these solo laners are trying to find ways to get a little bit more damage into the builds.
It's not a bad idea, just based off of your natural resiliency. You're going to be the highest level of the game more often than not as a solo laner. You play a Guardian in that role, so your base protections, your base health is going to be higher for the most part, so you can kind of get away with at least one damaging item. Not every item in the solo lane has to be your hybrid / pure tank.
Depending on what it is your team needs, and it looks like NoPing need to try and find a way to get to Zearoe, at least from Gonn's positioning, but they realized it's not really going to be happening, so instead they fall back. Zearoe a little bit too close to the tower line. They find nothing there. On the other side, there's aggression from Insignem as they look into the jungle of NoPing, but they'll find not much there as NoPing just cleaned it up.
It's almost back and available. Purple buff now ticking away. Joshy going to be able to strip that one away. However, Gonn was able to take away those back camps on the right side of the map, being up every 60 seconds. It has a lot of value if you're able to deny your opposing jungler that little farm.
I think Genetics didn't quite realize where they were. That stun does not land, and he's not able to get much out of the Ragnarok thanks to Gonn's beads. He ends up finding Genetics. LASBRA comes in with the Fear No Evil, but can't find much there. He still has the lead, so he's able to disengage, but a nice fight for NoPing.
A clean 1-for-0. Genetics really wanting to get in there and try to get the Ragnarok off, forcing the beads and the pal out from Gonn, but not enough damage to get this dodgy before going up in the sky, finding the pick onto Genetics and walking away cleanly.
I really have to imagine he thought he was going to get the initial stun, because even he kind of was just like kind of standing afterwards like, I guess I'm here now, and that was all Gonn needed to go in. Good job with the beads to get out of the Ragnarok and pal out right afterwards. But this is the kind of game that Donji wants to be in, right? One where she can, you know, kind of get you to use your beads already or bait out those cooldowns, and then she can start pulling you in with those chains.
As soon as Genetics missed the Unchained, that was going to be a long cooldown that you don't have to worry about. So Gonn calculating the damage that he was about to receive. He knows how much damage he's going to do. It's all about kind of assessing the counter damage afterwards. Gonn able to just kind of take Genetics for a wild ride. No one really here for NoPing to punish that out.
Gonn not really in too much danger there, though Genetics might get sandwiched here, or pinched rather. The hammer lands, but Impale off the mark, and Genetics will be A-okay. Can move right back, but aggression from LASBRA and Zearoe. They strip away the blue from MargotAnna.
Both of these Guardians desperately needing blue buff to stay relevant in the laning phase, so that's going to be a big plus for Zearoe as his blue buff was already taken away. He gets Margot's blue buff. Could be more of that lane bully. Margot definitely needing a lot of mana.
That's beads from Joshy. He gets caught out in that narrow jungle path and has to use the beads, doesn't get impaled. Though this could be a setup for Genetics to find YouFell. The beads come out after Ragnarok, but Brutalize follows him anyway. It's just not enough damage. Joshy gonna dash for it, misses the autos, but Airstrike should get it.
He's gonna go between the tier 1 and the tier 2 tower. SPETHRO shouldn't give this one up because Ship is preoccupied with LASBRA.
That's good that LASBRA's there, or Ship could have very likely come through for the collapse, and really that interaction was so key. Joshy just kind of walks back out.
Oh yeah, Joshy feeling himself there, and I think Genetics purposely cancels his Brutalize on the 4th hit because he wanted to give the kill to Joshy. That's a true support play right there. It's not because he didn't want to tank the tier 1 tower. My man's jumped on SPETHRO under the tier 2 tower at level 4, knowing that he was going to take 2 tower shots and survive.
It'd be hard to imagine Genetics is doing something because he's afraid based off what we've seen from him so far. So yeah, that might be it, but it does put Josh in a very good spot. 2-0-1 now, and working on the Devourer's Gauntlet out in front of YouFell, who's only level 7 with 2 spills.
Very difficult now to get back into this game, and it was a nice attempt to go onto Genetics with a hammer stun from SPETHRO before that action even happened, but dropping the Obelisk into the Impale. By the time the second action of the Impale occurs, the stun already fades away out of Genetics, and missing the Impale really hurt YouFell.
And it really hurts YouFell to just be behind here because you really want Honor for like his early to mid game. He certainly doesn't go away in the late, but he doesn't really have the steroid. I mean, Shifting Sands does help him some, but it's not quite the same as the attack speed bump like Roms get. So he's not going to be as potent later on. And because he's going to be delayed getting to his mid-game spike, he's really going to struggle.
That's very true. The objective's not going to favor out NoPing if YouFell is consistently behind. However, by having SPETHRO play the Fafnir, that's where the lack of attack speed doesn't hurt the on-hurt too much. And considering that Ship is playing the Soul, another one of these hybrid characters between magic power and the attack speed, that's only going to go a long way for NoPing. So Insignem needs to keep that left side of the map warded like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a well-balanced draft from NoPing around this double auto attack or basic attacker composition. But are they going to get to the point where they can make that work, where they can burn structures, where they can have the consistent damage to chip away at Insignem? Right now, this Finrer and the Unbots are such a problem in this early game that they haven't really had the freedom to get farmed up.
That's right, Genetics and Joshy, a part of 100% of Insignem's kills thus far. 2 of those kills going to Joshy. The other one was for Genetics under that tier 2 tower, playing cleanup crew. And this is what you need to do as a Fenrir, because you're going to be building tanky as a Fenrir support. You're really utilizing your Unchained stun into the Ragnarok for the late game. Your Brutalize is just non-existent in the late game for cleanup crew. If anything, you're using it to body block somebody else getting focus fired.
That's right. You really can't afford to try and stick 2 targets anymore at that point. You'll get burned a little bit too quickly. I think we even saw last game Half Devil using it. Even though it is relatively short, it can sometimes, you know, get you over some walls or help you reposition a little bit. So it might help you out in that way. But you're right. Late game, it doesn't feel that good. Fender is mostly there for some nice Unchained stuns and Ragnarok deliveries.
It's all about being the sponge of damage also from his Seething Howl, just to be able to get all the life return as possible with some of the buffs as well towards getting more runes based off of assists. It's also a lot easier to get more Unchains going as the team fight continues.
Genetics wants these oracles, but SPETHRO right here. Discordia should help confirm, and then indeed that is enough, and Insignem grab them both and get the vision. Horrific Emblem, though, picked up by both these supports. This has kind of risen, I feel like, over, you know, this week and towards the tail end of Fall Split. Having these slows at the start of the game really can be potent, but hold that thought. Ship going in aggressively. They want to fight over Fear No Evil.
Oh, they're definitely going to do that. The Apple going to get eaten by Zearoe. Up in the Dragon is SPETHRO, jumping right on over. Gonn taking out Genetics under the tier 1 tower. Not a clean disengage because Ship gets returned.
1 for 1 so far. That fight happened in the jungle and over underneath the tier 1. It was mostly Gonn who pulled him back in with the chains that sets that one up. So it ends up being a trade, but mid laner for support still feels pretty good for Insignem.
Genetics will take that trade every day of the week. He's always mindful about his hyper carries, trying to get the kills, trying to set up the plays, and as a Fenrir support, you have to be as selfless as humanly possible. And Genetics has definitely risen to the occasion so far this tournament, and even throughout the summer split when he was here for the fall finals of SML, or summer finals.
And you saw the, you know, within the actual fight, you know, the Golden Experience might have favored NoPing a little bit, but the one missing out on farm for a little while there was Ship, and Deathpanter got to stick around for a while. So even though the actual fight itself might have favored NoPing a little bit, it's that aftermath that can end up hurting them. But speaking of these mid laners, look at this. The Spear of Desolation picked up very early by Deathpanter. It is a ton of power.
Yes.
And it does also kind of refresh the cooldowns to get the kill. So I like it sort of as a bank item and some pen.
That's right. 100 magical power this early into the game is really going to hurt these targets that don't have that much protection, especially with a 15% or 15 flat penetration. The passive is very rare that it'll actually amount to anything at the end of the day. You're really getting this also just for the raw base stats. The 10% cooldown reduction, 100 power, 15 flat pen.
Yeah, it's really not a bad item, and that's usually sort of the minimum for like that first power bank item is at 100 power. You see Bancross in that slot sometimes. A lot of the time it's Book of Thoth right now. So Spirit Desolation meets that threshold. Pin is really nice early, and as you said, you're always looking for cooldown.
Good obelisk there, forcing the Unchained jump from Genetics. Could also waste all those runes there, so that's why he's actually using it to stack on the Gold Fury. I don't think that he's actually attempting to do this Gold Fury, but hitting any sort of neutral camp and resetting that camp for your hyper carries to do allows you to still build the stacks, but allow your carries to get the gold.
That's exactly right. Just trying to make sure you can have those runes stacked up. Genetics, though, waiting on whether or not SPETHRO will come through the corner, and it looks like for now he might not. It's very warded around that Gold Fury by NoPing anyway, so even if that was the call, certainly NoPing would have been aware of it, though. YouFell is kind of sticking around waiting on these oracles right now, the rest of the team nearby, but I'm not really looking for any big fights.
With how aggressive the dual lane dueling has been, everyone else has been relatively quiet in this game. LASBRA's made some rotations, Gonn's made some rotations, but it's mostly off of the engagements from Genetics, and no one else from NoPing is trying to force anything. They're just waiting to see where this Fenrir is rotating and how they can adapt, how they can use the weight of this Fenrir engage against Insignem.
And they do kind of have to slow down a bit because it's their carries really that are struggling, right? YouFell about 3 levels behind Joshy, and Ship about a level and a half or so. He just ticked over 13 behind, so it's hard to engage without those as LASBRA has the beads forced out by Ship and SPETHRO.
Doing a lot of damage there without the Supernova. If that ability was committed, probably could have taken a good extra 25% of LASBRA's health, and I think that's what he was worried about by using that beat in the first place, afraid of the knock-up and all the additional damage.
Insignem, though, a strong team here. That's why they're making these kind of calls. Gold Fury being looked at. Now, YouFell is nearby with the Desert Fury. Supernova available for Ship, but I don't know if they recognize this is happening. They haven't been able to make their way into the pit. That's just Gold Fury for Insignem.
Wow. No one from NoPing around the corner, and Insignem walking away with a 15-minute Gold Fury. Experience 5,000 in the lead, Gold 4,000 in the lead, but NoPing going to try to answer back here.
Pyromancer not quite as good as the Gold Fury, but you got to get something in response, so NoPing will settle for this Pyro. But I'm a person that thinks we say free a little bit too much, but that absolutely was in that case, right? There's no one from NoPing around that time as Insignem try and force down the tier 1 tower. YouFell is able to defend it, and now SPETHRO wrapping around with Ship coming as well. Horrific Emblem comes out, and they're going to change targets for the Soul.
Oh, I like this idea here. Genetics using the Ragnarok defensively to get that movement speed to disengage, but now going back in, Apple from a distance, landing on Ship.
And that's going to be enough. Deathpanter able to remove the opposing mid laner. Now SPETHRO is stuck overcommitted. Gonn has LASBRA, but can't quite find him. Gets the kill for himself, and LASBRA will fall. It's 2 for 1. Insignem able to get the mid laner and the support.
Man, that was as close as a 1v1 as you're gonna see. Sticking a little bit too long was Gonn, trying to get those backhands. Gonna get cleaned up at a Zearoe. A 1 for 3 after the goal here. Insignem not done yet. Will secure themselves the tier 2 tower.
MargotAnna trying to defend this, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get it done. The tier 2 tower goes down, and Joshy dashes in aggressively. Meanwhile, Deathpanter grabbing the mid-tier 1 tower as well. Insignem kind of just decided to start this fight by forcing down the tier 1.
Oh man, Joshy really out of position there. Forced to airstrike defensively before the impale stunned him out. Margot now gonna get knocked up. Finally using that Earth and Fury. Will get some healing done, and man, they really dropped that kill onto Margot after the tier 2 tower. You could tell there was a little bit of a disconnect from Insignem. Joshy goes in, both Genetics and Zearoe goes on out. They got the objective, but knowing that it was only YouFell coming back from the respawn, I think that kill was almost necessary, because if you kill Margot after the tier 2 on the left, you can transition into the mid lane. Deathpanter was already split pushing, grabbing a tier 1 tower for 500 gold, and if already Margot dies, then maybe that could have been a tier 2 in the mid.
A strong, though, sequence of events for Insignem that now has them about 6,000 gold out in front, Tole, and you can kind of see the story just on the map if you sort of look at how the tower suddenly gets stronger going towards solo. The duo lane definitely got out of control. Mid was tough, but it wasn't that bad, and solo was virtually even, if not a little bit in their favor. It's kind of funny how it worked out that way, and Genetics now looking for Ship, but the Disapparate good to get him away from the Brutalize.
Forcing a Brutalize or trading out your Brutalize for a Disapparate. It leaves Ship a little vulnerable. No one really there to capitalize afterwards, but the rotation, you were mentioning how strong those towers are on the solo side. It doesn't look like they're going to stand strong for long, because Insignem want to focus their attention on the right side of the map now.
Zearoe going to step forward first. Okay with taking some tower shots, but Genetics and SPETHRO are meeting in the jungle, just fighting over wards, a tale as old as time with 2 supports. But Joshy takes some odd pathing and has to give up the airstrike because of it.
That's the second time now he's had to use the airstrike within the last 2 to 3 minutes defensively, but LASBRA starting things off.
Gonn, though, with a good reaction time to go up into the powwow to get away from being pulled in by the Fear No Evil. Zearoe right in the middle of everything. Supernova ticks over the top, and Zearoe has to retreat, but Gonn chases him down. They now collapse on the LASBRA for a double for the dodgy. NoPing respond big.
They're not done yet. They want the chase here. Stellar Burst just to clear the wave. Not going to be able to reach out Genetics to the 5-on-3 advantage. I think NoPing has the world as their oyster. They could easily go for Fire Giant, Finch.
Yeah, and what really ends up hurting them there on that last Batoli, I feel like, is LASBRA wants Gonn with that Fear No Evil, but he isn't able to find him. The Pal-Out gets mad there. Doesn't even need to use beats.
Perfect timing to counteract that. It was a lackluster ultimate looking from LASBRA. Great reactions from Gonn, and instead of going for the Fire Giant, NoPing want to try their luck in this Tier 2 tower.
Genetics does a good job laying the stun. That sets up Deathpanter with the strike, and SPETHRO is already out. And now, totally, as you highlighted, instead of Fire Giant or Tier 2 tower, they kind of get nothing, and they're left to leave.
In a 5-on-3, they're splitting the map 4-1. They're having out Gonn rotate to the mid lane for, what, 500 gold? I think if there was a straight-up 5-on-3, I don't think that play to defend is even a possibility.
Yeah, in the end, they kind of can't decide. They end up getting not really anything. What they mean when they say just commit to something is YouFell does at least find the Magai's cloak onto, I believe that was Zearoe. He was able to hit with that impale, and now it's Insignem grouping up around the Fire Giant, at least trying to see if they can find a fight.
They're thinking about it. They're not really pulling it quite yet. As I say that, now they finally do. Taking about 25% of its health pool. Margot spawning it from a distance. Gone to the left side. Ship, though, took so much poke.
LASBRA has the Fear No Evil waiting for him there, too, and he's able to bounce right back in with the Monkey. An easy pick for Insignem, and now they head right back to the FG, continually force NoPing to come in slowly, and now it's MargotAnna who's in trouble. That forces SPETHRO to jump in, but Deathpanter's already got the Terra.
Gone up in the sky with a Pal-Out, trying to pull anyone that he can. LASBRA going to get stunned out from SPETHRO. Joshy forced to airstrike defensively. Gone in the backline, 1v4, trying to kill Deathpanter, and he finally gets him.
At the very least, he gets that, but gives up his life to get it done. LASBRA punishes him. The egg is still available for Deathpanter, bought him precious seconds, and now it's SPETHRO back to try and defend the Fire Giant up against 4-0 on zone duty. Genetics is quite low. Joshy at half HP too, but no real steal potential as Insignem are able to claim the FG.
SPETHRO going to get knocked up at the perfect timing to prevent any steal potential. Insignem not interested in the chase, knowing that Ship has respawned. YouFell is healthy as well, and they don't know exactly where those two backliners could be around those corners.
And Toli, you really hit the nail on the head. I think NoPing have gifted this back to them, because remember how that starts. Insignem aren't quite sure what they want to do around that blue buff. They're clumped up in the jungle. LASBRA initiates on Gonn, finds nothing. They lose the fight, and now NoPing have the power play, but they end up getting really nothing out of it.
Ship's positioning was just really bad in the last Fire Giant, but before that, like you mentioned, having that 4-1 split was awkward. You needed to make it a full 5-on-3, brute force your way towards the Tier 2 tower. 1,500 gold, greater than 500 gold, right? So why wouldn't you all-in commit to the Tier 2 tower anyway? Just guarantee it, right? Better safe than sorry. And speaking of better safe than sorry, Ship is very sorry after that last Fire Giant contest, because his positioning is left to be more desired. Deathpanter was able to catch him with a Strife, and if you're close enough to a Discordia to get Strife, there needs to be reconsideration of your positioning.
Ends up getting punished. Remember, SPETHRO died on that Tier 2 tower push, and Insignem used that to kind of just group up around the FG and bully NoPing into trying to contest. They get a couple of slow kills off at the objective and the Gold Fury, so now they can try and force down this Tier 2 tower with over a 10,000 gold lead. Genetics can laugh off these tower shots as the Tier 2 tower in mid falls. Why not come right over to the one in right side as well in the solo lane, burn that one as well. Insignem looking a little bit cleaner with their power play than NoPing did.
Shipping every last tower in the book before finally going for some of these Phoenixes, building off of a 13,000 gold lead now. Dominating performance from the European minor league teams up against the Brazilian NoPing Esports.
And it's hard, I would say, to not be impressed with Insignem's performance so far. You know, able to find that win up against Trifecta. They did end up having a tough set earlier on, but then able to drop down here in the loser bracket, and now they're looking good up against NoPing as well. Certainly this game not over yet at this point, and there's been some things to clean up, but I would say largely Insignem have looked good.
They definitely have, and Genetics needed to play the way he did for this to really work out the way it has been. He has no fear. The level 4 play under the Tier 2 tower, I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, man, that's how you know you're confident, because you're not doing this in the comfort of your own home. You're doing this in a LAN environment where your players are beside you. And if that play fails, like if for whatever reason, like SPETHRO's spidey senses were tingling and he moves away as the Unchained is in the air, then that's going to be probably a dropped kill, wastes a lot of time, and maybe SPETHRO chases him down for the kill, and then all of a sudden Insignem's teammates are like, Why would you do that, mate?
That's a confidence play, and you're right. High risk, high reward, and Genetics trusting himself to be able to grab it, and it works out for his team. Strife is big as well as Deathpanter and the rest of Insignem grouping up to force down the Phoenix. MargotAnna takes quite a bit of poke, and LASBRA hits everybody with the Fear No Evil. YouFell, Anna, and Ship all have to fall back, but it's Gonn who's surging forward with the Powwow.
Looking for the Powwow, not going to get anybody. Good CC immunity all across the board. Phoenix still very healthy, but not the members of NoPing.
Zearoe able to find some nice stuns, but it's LASBRA who finds Ship on the left-hand side. Phoenix now lower, but LASBRA might pay for his over-aggression. SPETHRO and YouFell team up to take down the Monkey.
That was a beautiful Desert Fury from YouFell. Everyone lining up from Insignem there on the left side of the wall. Blinking in now is Zearoe, stunning out SPETHRO, but he's going to get disrupted.
This has been a great fight from YouFell as he finds a good impale onto Zearoe, but all the while the left side Phoenix falls.
Ooh.
Jumping back in is Genetics. That sets up Zearoe to find Gonn. He's still trying to stand, but YouFell continues to stand tall, but Joshy answers back.
Oh, Genetics with a stun. Joshy gets himself a double kill. The backline is making the plays from Insignem. Deathpanter and Joshy bringing the pain.
And you can see Insignem thought about it, but they just aren't healthy enough. They don't have the damage and ability to tank to stick around. They're going to back up, having successfully grabbed that left side Phoenix. They took some injuries, a little bit banged up, but they win the fight and have broken the base open of NoPing.
Definitely not too shabby here from Insignem, trying to close this one out in under 30 minutes of play. Fire Giant respawning in less than 30 seconds. The Titan is exposed, and with this 14,000 gold lead, I just don't see a world that NoPing can realistically hold this.
It's going to be very difficult up against this Insignem roster. And I want to talk a little bit. Genetics has had a great game, I feel like, on this Finner. Can we look at the Lonos, Doug, being highlighted here for us? This is something we saw Half Double do in the last set, I believe, as well. It just makes it a little bit easier for these off-roll picks to be a tankier target for you in the support role.
Oh, absolutely. Between the flat protection and actual percent damage taken, like, you're not trying to deal damage with this build at all. It's all about the control that you're really bringing in. Now, granted, you're not going to be really healing as much from the Seething Hell, but that's a back thought for him. The 20% crowd control reduction, believe it or not, goes a long way with some of the control from NoPing.
Yeah, this is a great pickup, I think, when you're trying to get an assassin to do a Guardian's job, you know, that type of thing. So Genetics, I think, with great recognition with this build, something we've seen popular amongst these Finra supports. And now Insignem going to barrel down the solo lane side. They don't quite have the minions pushed up on that duo line, so NoPing actually doesn't have to worry about that, at least for now. But MargotAnna got to worry about this Discordia.
Oh, yes. That magical damage is really starting to show off there. Not having the most magical defense in the world, and also almost non-existent in the health department, and that's why Margot took all that damage.
And Deathpanter triple dipping into Pin as well is definitely causing some pain for these tanks. The Phoenix on the right side is low, but Insignem can't all-in commit yet, and all the while, those minions on left are slowly starting to push in. NoPing got to make the defense.
Oh, but Insignem are going to go in. Blinking in the backline is Zearoe, but instead switching their attention to their own backline, taking out the frontliners from NoPing.
Yeah, the tanks get shredded trying to dive in. This should be easy now for Insignem to jump in and burn the Phoenix to the right-hand side. YouFell can't stick around. Ship does not have the damage, and Gonn is just trying to defend the mid-Phoenix. Right side gets burned out quickly, and now LASBRA wants Ship.
Oh, he misses the monkey toss, however, but the Titan will get focused out. NoPing trying to play defense. Desert Fury comes on through. YouFell using the Aegis. Gonn gets the Palo, but it's too late.
Titan is the one that's the focus. Ship able to find a kill, but it's way too late. Insignem find the win here in game one. Looking strong. NoPing did not have the answers.
No, definitely not there. Insignem don't look entirely happy after that when they're like, okay, well, we still got to win one more game. Let's just keep on this momentum.
And Insignem has been playing it kind of cool. You know, every time we talk to them, they're like, you know what? We don't have that big of expectations. We're just going to play our best. You know, we think we're strong, but, you know, these are really good teams. I think they expect to be able to come in here and make some noise the way that they've done. So maybe not happy that it wasn't as clean as they would have liked.
Maybe they're a little disappointed that they're even having to go through the lower bracket right now after their day one performance from Trifecta. But I think at the end of the day, still a clean performance out of them being able to take out NoPing, no slouch in their own right.
And this isn't, all their work's not entirely done here. This is just game one, but they looked very strong. I liked the way they played with that Finra in the support role. Deathpanter was shredding anyone who came within a radius of him. That absolutely you could not afford to step in on him. So a great game, I would say, but NoPing has some mistakes they can clean up too.
They definitely can, and I think Deathpanter had a good game because of how aggressive Genetics was. There was so much of a buffer zone between Genetics and Deathpanter that no one from NoPing can realistically dive Deathpanter. Like Gonn was using his ultimate defensively to get away from LASBRA's ultimate, to get away from Genetics' ultimate, but at the end of the day, there probably needs to be more focus on Deathpanter.
Yeah, and that fight around the Fire Giant is one that if you're on the side of NoPing, you could look back on and say, okay, if we clean that up, maybe we can win this game. But can they make those adjustments in between game one and game two? They absolutely have to if they want to stay in the tournament. Let's get it back over to the desk so they can break it down.
Thanks a lot, John. Good job on the call as I try to wrangle my words as well as Insignem wrangle together NoPing. Fantastic job from Insignem. I think this was just classic Insignem. This is how they win the game. LASBRA lines them up and cuts them down.
LASBRA did pretty well, but this seemed more like plan B to me, which is Deathpanter just doing it all. I mean, he was an absolute monster on this Discordia. I thought the pick was perfect for what NoPing was going to do with this draft, and Deathpanter was able to stay safe and put out extremely relevant damage just about every fight.
And again, this is really strong because we said that, generally LASBRA's plan A, Deathpanter's plan B, and then on the Hun Bats, his job kind of changes. And if I'm an Insignem fan at home, the fact that we have the first option in LASBRA, and that seems to be only where our wins come from, that's concerning. We've seen Optimus Gang. Johnny was only where their wins came from, and when something kind of went wrong, well, they didn't really have another option. If I'm a fan of Insignem, I'm super happy because we got to see the secondary option do what it's supposed to, and Insignem find a win in a way that they have not traditionally found those W's.
And Plan B really worked out for them with Deathpanter. I remember turning to Aggro multiple times saying, man, Unruly Magic really hurts as he was chunking multiple players from half HP down to basically nothing. Really coming up big for Joshy a couple of times, saving his neck.
I mean, the passive is huge, right? Just being able to provide extra power. We've seen her played in the support role, and it's not my favorite, but the commentary from players that have done that has been, listen, the passive is insane. You've just got to watch out for it. And that right there, the Strife, I mean, that sets up everything. Again, going back to what I was saying before, we keep saying plan B. Going into this game, plan B was the plan A. Deathpanter was supposed to run this game, and he did just that. I can't be happier about what Insignem did. This is what they planned to do, and they executed onto game two for Insignem, and we'll see if they're going to lean on mid or jungle.
Zearoe also played pretty well in this game on that RDO. He was able to control his lane very easily and then rotate in and do great work. Insignem just looked like the better team, which is what we expected coming into this.
Yeah, I don't think we were expecting really anything different from Insignem coming here. Obviously, they still have to show the same respect, even though it is the international squad, and they really did show the respects in the early game. They weren't over-aggressive. They weren't making a lot of stupid plays there. And in fact, Gonn actually had some really good plays on that dodgy very early in the game, got a good double kill on that left side of the map, but in the end, Insignem just coming out big.
So you were talking about
impressed.
NoPing. Yeah.
Gonn is definitely impressed. He played well on that dodgy, and Ship as well had some moments on that soul, but overall, I think that NoPing just looked a little bit overmatched.